I won't be able to come here every day. You need to understand that, Dad.
Yeah. So if I understand correctly, you're leaving me. Is that it? You're abandoning me.
Dad.
What's going to become of me?
Obviously, this is very important to me, otherwise I wouldn't be going. I can come back and see you often at the weekends.
Yeah.
But I can't leave you here on your own. It's not possible. And that's why if you refuse to have a carer, I'm going to have to.
To what? To what?
You have to understand, Dad.
Anne, you're going to have to what?
And that's a clip from the Oscar-winning movie, The Father. I'm delighted to say that one of its stars, Olivia Colman, and its creator, Florian Zeller, join us now. Olivia, my guess is you're at home and Florian is also at home, but you're in different places. Am I right?
Yes. London.
Yes. And Paris.
Paris.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed for talking to us. Congratulations on the success of this movie already. Olivia, I should say, I don't think you've been on the show since you were, I think it was The Favourite when you were on last time. And I think you were in the middle of filming The Crown. So you were in your queenly phase. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Florian hasn't been on the show before because he hasn't made a movie before. So this is so great to have you on, Florian. Can you tell us where what is the origin of the play that then became this movie? Where did this story start?
I would say it started with a personal experience. I have been raised by my grandmother, and she was like my mother. She was someone very dear to me. And she started to suffer from dementia when I was 15. And so I knew a bit what it was to go through this painful process and to find yourself in a position where you are powerless. But it was not about telling my own story. It was more about sharing emotions, because I knew that, everyone has a grandmother, everyone has a father, and everyone fortunately has or will have to deal with this kind of dilemma. So it was about sharing those emotions.
And at what state, when you were creating the story, when did it occur to you that it would be very innovative and exciting, maybe from the viewer's point of view, to see this story told with all the disorientation of the sufferer, that we see the story from their point of view?
Yes, it was already the case in the play, meaning that I wanted the audience to be in this unique position, going through a labyrinth, questioning everything, what is real, what is not real, as if, in a way, you were in the main character's head, as if you were getting dementia yourself. It was already in the play, but I had this intuition that the cinema, thanks to its language, could turn this experience into something even more immersive and disturbing, and I hoped powerful. And that's why I had this desire to make a film based on this experience.
Olivia, when did you first come across the story? Did you ever get to see the play?
No, I didn't, which I'm pleased I didn't, and I regret in equal measure, because when you've seen someone else play a part, it's quite hard to shake that and get it out of your head. But now I'd like to go and see it. But it first came to me, I remember I went to meet Florian. He was over in London. So this must be a couple of years ago now. And
more than that.
Oh, more?
Yeah, I think it was 3 years ago.
Really? But I had read the script and went to meet Florian, and it was just, I'd never read a script like it, as you were saying, to be in the audience and to go with the sufferer. And so for the first time ever, I went, hey, this is what it's like. No one had ever put it like that before. And I loved it and wanted to be part of it.
And you play Anne, the father's daughter. Can you explain who she is and how she fits in this story? Because you are kind of distracted and irritated through a lot of it. Just explain your side of the story, Olivia.
So Anne doesn't see the confusion that the audience sees. She sees this, what was a strong and forceful, energetic, wonderful man is forgetting things or sort of upsetting carers. And so she gets called from work. She has to go and it's quite frustrating. It's only if she could see it through his eyes, she'd see that he's not doing it on purpose. He's confused. So yes, trying to look after someone you love and trying to lead your life, but make sure they're safe. And you don't know if he's going to wander outside or it's frustrating. And Florian has written it so beautifully that from the audience's point of view, it's a shame that Anne is frustrated, but you can't help yourself.
Florian, what are the tricks that you use? And I'm thinking here of the casting. Maybe you could explain how you put over that confusion and disorientation to the viewer.
I think it was trying to find a visual way to create like a labyrinth. It was about the casting, but it was also about, I would say, the set, for example. We shot the whole film in a studio in the same space, but it was a constantly changing space, so that you're never quite sure of where you are. At the beginning, this is Anthony's apartment. You're certain about that because you recognize the space, the colors, the pieces of furniture. And throughout the film, things are changing. At the beginning, it's slight, it's small metamorphosis, so that you cannot tell exactly what happened, but something had happened. So that you are in this strange position where you recognize where you are, and at the same time, you're not quite sure anymore. And it's like going through this feeling of disorientation, again, because I wanted that film to be the experience. And so it was a way to play with that feeling of disorientation.
Yes. But also when Olivia goes to the shop, so when she leaves the first time, when she comes back, she's Olivia Williams. And so, because I saw this movie without knowing anything about it, which is, of course, the best way.
That's the best
to
way.
see it.
Yeah.
It is. So
Yes.
I'm thinking, hang on a second, did I fall asleep? Has the DVD fast forwarded a few chapters without me
Yes,
realizing?
it's very disturbing, because you're like, this is not coherent with what I said, or with what I just saw and what I understood. So you have to question what you are seeing. And this is what I wanted. I wanted the audience to be in an active position, trying to figure it out, trying to find your own path through the meaning. And there is so many contradictions in the narrative that you have to be active and to be part of the narrative, to use your brain and your heart to try to make it meaningful. But it's true that I wanted the audience to have, the same experience as the main characters is having. And so he's expecting his daughter to come into the apartment, and suddenly this is another actress pretending to be the daughter. And so you cannot believe that this is the truth. And probably has someone who is confused cannot believe that this is the truth.
The father is, of course, Sir Anthony Hopkins. At what stage, having lived with this story for a long time, Florian, as such a successful player, but at what stage did you think Anthony Hopkins was the man you wanted for this?
At the very beginning, when I started dreaming about the film, the one and only face that came to my mind was Anthony's. And that's the reason why I made the decision to make that film in English, because I'm French, as you can hear. And so it was not an obvious decision, but it was really because I thought that he would be the best for that part. Not only because I think he's the greatest actor, but also because, we know an actor through all his parts. And to me, at least, Anthony is this powerful figure with authority and always in control of the situations. And I thought that it would be even more disturbing and moving to see that man precisely losing the control.
Had you acted with him before, Olivia?
No, it's sort of like a dream come true. Because, I grew up watching his films and watching him on Parkinson and all those, Anthony Hopkins. And I was thrilled to find out it was him and to find out I'd got the job. And he did not disappoint. He was an absolute dream to work with.
Can you give us any you're an award-laden actor in your own right, but when you are acting opposite someone who you have held in such renown for so long, are you nervous? Is it like first night of a play? What does it feel like when you start filming with Anthony Hopkins?
Well, we had a read through, and you sort of, within a few minutes in his company, he's just Tony, and he's cracking jokes and he's lovely, and you sort of forget, which might sound hard to believe, but you do forget that he's someone you've looked up to for years, and he just becomes this lovely man that you're working with. And he's so generous, which I think actually the really great actors are generous and there's no ego. Maybe because they don't have to prove anything. They've got where they wanted to get to. I don't know, but he really looks at you. He gives you everything. He makes your job an easier job. He's, lovely.
Florian, from the director's point of view, I've read elsewhere that you've said that you'd said to Anthony Hopkins that you didn't want him to act. Can you explain what you meant by that and how you direct Anthony Hopkins?
It's true that the sentence that we have used so many times throughout the shooting was no acting required, which is not true in a way, because he's acting all the time. But it was a way to say that we didn't want just to imitate, an old man with the disease or to achieve something fake. So and I didn't want him to feel protected by a fictional character in a way. I wanted him just to be in front of the camera as himself with his own feelings, emotions, fears, and in a way to try to achieve something as impactful, truthful, and powerful as possible. And that's also why we made the decision not to rehearse, because we didn't want to, to talk too much about the character and to be too aware of the disease, of the theme of that film, but just to be connected to every scene every day and to make them as, alive, emotional, or playful as they needed.
I want to ask you about the final scene without talking about the final scene, because obviously it's the final scene. I interviewed Anthony Hopkins once, many, many years ago for Surviving Picasso. I think it was like 1996. But I asked him in there about a movie which he did of Shadowlands, where he plays C.S. Lewis. And there is a scene in there where he's racked with grief. And it was a very affecting and commanding performance, I thought. And I was just asking him about how you do that, because he appeared so consumed with this grief. I just felt as though I wanted to ask him about it. And he was sort of surprised by the question. And he just said, I'm acting. He said, this is what I do. I'm not sure that was your experience when working with him for the final section of the film, but can you tell us anything about that, Florian?
I think that we were aware that the destination of that film was something important for the film itself, meaning that if that scene was not as powerful as it should have been, the whole film in a way would have been pointless. So we shot it probably more aware of the stakes, and it was about seeing someone re-becoming a child, crying for help, crying for his mother to save him. And it was not an easy one, because when I asked him to do it again, it was not about asking him to do another take. It was about asking him to go through those painful emotions. And so it was not easy. And suddenly something happened. He told me that afterwards. He thought of a lullaby that his mother used to sing to him. And I saw this lullaby destroying him, in front of us. And I saw him traveling through time, 70 years back in his past and re-becoming this child. And it was really heartbreaking, because it was not fake, because it was profoundly the child he was once, reappearing for us for a few minutes, and it was like a miracle.
I just have one more question, then we're out of time. David Baddiel, writing in the Sunday Times, he's an English comedian and writer, Florian, whose father has dementia, but he says that your movie was the most successful in portraying dementia as far as he was concerned. But he says he thinks this movie, in a way, is like a horror film. Maybe, Olivia, you first, in as much as we see that Anthony Hopkins' character is still lucid enough at times to know what's happening to him, and that is terrifying, and that's why he thinks of it as a horror film.
Yeah. I mean, it is upsetting, when there's moments of lucidity and, this great brain is still there. This great brain is just making the wrong choices occasionally. But I think part of what can be comforting, I hope, from the film is to realize, instead of trying to correct someone with dementia, all the time, like, no, they died, and making them relive that every day or 3 times a day. My mum is an amazing nurse. She's retired now, but she used to, dementia was her sort of specialism, if that's the word. And she said, instead of correcting someone every day, going along with it, and then the heartbreak doesn't have to happen 15 times a day, and maybe this film is showing us exactly that. Don't tell them about the daughter, every time he brings her up, because he'd have to relive it again. So just enjoy those lucid moments, and when you're having a muddly moment, just go with it. It seems a lot less upsetting that way.
Yeah, there's elements of horror in the film. There's elements of psychological thriller as well, because, as you said, it's a process. When the brain is still working and capable to understand that something doesn't work in a way, you cannot be passive. You have rage, aggressivity. You are trying to make it work. You are trying to look for the meaning. So you are active in front of the chaos, and it's a painful moment. And then it's a process also of letting it go. And this is the whole story leading to this place where you have to accept our destiny, to let it go. And in that place, love is still relevant. Connection between the daughter and the father is still relevant and powerful and beautiful.
Florian Zeller, Olivia Colman, Thank you very much for your time.